Right, John. Long association with Cheltenham Town now coming to a close. How do you feel? Finally giving it up after all those years.
Feel sad after all those years. I mean, my association goes back to 1974, so we're talking almost 40 years.
Yeah.
And massive changes in those 40 years.
Yeah.
I can remember. Well, I started off, as you know, as a St John volunteer.
Yeah.
And used to stand on the patio with my mate Dave Spashett, who's still a St John volunteer, still comes down. And we did that for a number of years, and there would be 150 people and their dog. And there were paling fences around the ground to keep the 150 off the pitch.
Yeah.
Did that for a number of years, and then that's when Jim Barron approached me one day.
Yeah.
And said, we're running a reserve team, and they go to quite a few places. I think they were going to the likes of Plymouth and Bournemouth and Exeter and Torquay, those sort of places.
Yeah.
You see, we haven't got anybody with first aid knowledge to go with them. And he said, we wondered whether you'd like to take it on.
Yeah.
So I said, well, I'll give it a try and see what happens. And that was the start. That was probably the late 80s, was it, when Jim was here?
That's right, yeah.
So I really became involved with the club, in the late 80s.
Yeah, so you were physio for a number of years, and then first team physio, weren't you?
I was first team physio when, Lindsay was in charge then. And I don't know what happened to Bill Sabatella, but Lindsay approached me one day and said, Bill's gone, I'd like you to carry on.
Yeah.
So, and my first game was Alf Church away, I think it was.
Right.
And that was back in 93.
Yeah.
And then I was phys up until 1999, April 1999.
Yeah.
And then, because we were in the Football League, all the rules changed. You had to have properly qualified physios then.
Yeah.
In fact, I think you've got to have it now, properly qualified physios, right down to the Southern League these days.
Yeah.
They're quite strict on it.
Yeah.
So the days when somebody could sort of pick up the sponge and do it have long since gone, which is not a bad thing, really. I mean,
Yeah.
I could cope with whatever went on with my first aid knowledge, but the rehab was always, a bit difficult, but
Yeah.
we got by. But then Andy Mitch came in.
Yeah.
And Koch said to me, well, we're not going to let you go. He said, we're not going to he said, come along and give Andy a hand. He'll need a hand with rubs and things like that.
Yeah.
So, and in fact, Andy Mitchell, if I speak to him now, he says, I learnt an awful lot from you, John. He said, because you've been there a number of years and I was the green rookie that had just come in. He said, I'm forever grateful for what, you knew. And so that went on, and then that went on till we won the first playoff final.
Yeah.
And Cots then went to Stoke, and Graham Olner took over. And that summer, I don't know what went on with Taj, but Graham approached me that summer and said, Taj has gone, will you do the kit for us?
Yeah.
So I then did the kit and carried on doing the reserve team up until Wardy's days.
Yeah.
And then, by then, my knees were getting a bit sore. So Wardy said, well, all right, carry on doing the kit. And I think Goffey came in to do the reserve team then.
Yeah.
So, but no, I've been very lucky.
Yeah.
I've seen 5 promotions.
Yeah.
And been involved in 4 major finals. So I don't think there's many on the backroom staff that can say they've done that. I think I'm probably the last man standing.
Yeah. What's been the best thing about being involved at the club for all those years? I mean, what do you love about it? Because you've done a lot of it voluntarily, really, at times, haven't you? And just given up your own time.
Well, you do to give a lot of your own time, but it's just being involved with them. I love being involved with the club.
Yeah.
If they cut me in half, it'd be red and white, or ruby and white, or whatever. I've just loved every minute of it, John.
Yeah. Tell me a bit about the kit man role, because obviously you're responsible for getting everything ready, making sure the players look good on a match day. What other stuff do you do that people might not automatically realise?
It's everything that the players want, and that goes really from slips to shinnies to making sure that they've got wine gums and Jaffa cakes and bananas, and that there's sufficient fluids for them.
Yeah.
So, and making sure, of course, that all their kit is there, all that they want. You've got to know different players want different things, and over the years you get to know exactly what they want. I mean, Sean Howard always wanted to wear for his warm-up white short training socks. He didn't want to wear his playing socks, so he always had a white pair of socks.
Right.
And then Mike Hector came, and he always wanted to warm up in short socks. Sam Deering wanted cut-offs.
Yeah.
Mike Duff, Darryl Duffy wanted cut-offs as well.
Yep.
You just get to know over the years what the players want, and those that have body armour, and
Yep.
you just get to know and make sure it's there for them, so they don't have to worry about it.
Yeah. What's it been like seeing all the changes that have happened from when you were physio and the club were part-time and now to see where we are now? What's it been like seeing all those massive changes at the club?
There have been massive changes at the club. I can always remember the night we got promotion. I walked out the front, and I think it was Pat Shearing was on the door, and he said, "Oh, this is it then, John, we've done it." And I said, "Yeah, but things will never be the same again, Pat. It'll never be quite, I suppose in many ways it's more stricter. But if you've been involved with the club, in many ways it hasn't changed, because you carry on, you do exactly as you did before."
Yeah.
But there have been massive changes. I mean, the dressing rooms are different. We've had changes to the dressing rooms. We've had changes to the physio room. The ground has changed beyond recognition.
Yeah.
I mean, and the only thing that's the same is this main stand. Everything else has changed. Well, you'd never imagine it, would you, 15 years ago, exactly how it was going to change.
Yeah. And you've worked under numerous managers. What's Mark Yates like to work under, and say a bit about some of the other ones, the other characters you've worked for?
Yeah, I've worked. I started with Jim Barron, then worked with Dave Lewis when he took over for a while.
Yeah.
Ali Robinson didn't have much to do with him.
Right.
And then we had Lindsay, Chris Robinson, Steve.
Yeah.
Graham, all good managers.
Yeah.
Bobby Gould. I like Bob Gould for all that people say about Bob Gould. I liked him. The day after he'd gone, he sent me a letter, smashing letter, saying that thanks for all I did during his time here. I always gave 110% and be forever grateful for that.
Right.
And that was something he didn't have to do.
Yeah.
That's sides of managers that people don't hear about.
Yeah.
I mean, I've got great respect for Steve Cotts, because he was very good to me.
Yeah.
And brought me in when things weren't going quite well for me. And when I first came back, or when I retired from the courts, things weren't going so well for me. And he said, "Come on down." He said, "We'll get you out of this. Let the boys cheer you up a bit."
Yeah.
And, be forever grateful for him for that, because that's a side of Steve that people didn't see. They always saw this brash, shall I say, cocky chap, but he also had a soft side to him as well. And to be fair to him, he looked after his staff.
Yeah.
And then Wardy, got great respect for John Ward. He was just good to work for. He looked after his staff very well. Disappointing the day he told us up at Port Vale that he was going to Carlisle, but you couldn't blame him. He wanted to have a chance of moving on.
Yeah.
But having said that, a year or so later, my wife arranged a surprise 60th birthday party for me. And lo and behold, who turned up but John Ward? And he said, because Heather, my wife, thanked him for coming, and he said, if I couldn't do that for John, who looked after me all the years that I was there, then it would be a sad day. And that just goes to show what sort of man he was. There's one that I won't mention, and then Mark, who, like Cots, knew the club inside out. So I just hope that Mark can do what his predecessors had done and get us promotion.
Yeah.
He's worked wonders from when he first came in. I mean, we were nearly at the bottom, weren't we? And to get us to 2 playoffs has been great. Yeah.
Keith Downing as well, of course. Keith Downing as well.
Oh yeah, Keith, yes. I forgot dear old Keith, yeah. Lovely man, Keith. But great coach, but I don't think he was cut out to be a manager.
Yeah.
Although I do think if he'd been given a month or so, I think he would have turned it round.
Yeah.
But the job was getting to him. We all saw the change in Keith.
Yeah.
And in many respects, I think it was probably kind to Keith that things did or turned out as they did for him, because now you can't look back, and he's doing really well at West Brom. Yeah.
Do you see some similarities with the current lot and the way Mark's going about it? His previous successful promotion.
I see things in Mark that I saw with SC when he was here.
Yeah.
And that is pretty obvious, really, because Mark worked with Steve at Burnley.
Yeah.
There are things that Mark says that, that's Cots coming out there. But,
And what do you think? What do you think they need to do now to just go that one step further? Do you think that's what everyone will want this season?
We just need to kick on another step, don't we?
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of the players, they knew that I was going to leave at the end of the season.
Yeah.
And they really wanted me to go out on a high and go out at Wembley.
Yeah.
And that night against Northampton, they came in, and some of them was, sorry, we didn't do it for you, mate, but hey, you got another chance. That's football, isn't it? Yeah.
So you'll be up in the stand next season where you're cheering them on?
I'll be up in the stand next season cheering them on, yeah, with Mike Heather. People call us Waldorf and Statler. So we'll be sat up there, passing comments, making people laugh around us, because we always come out with something or other. When I was up there before, when I retired back in 98, when I had 20 months out, I used to sit up there with Mike. But then I got the shout 3 years ago that would I come back and help out? And I said I would. And it's lasted 3 years, and I felt, come on, I've done my stint. Let's call it a day, because for 10 months of the year, it's a big commitment. Yeah. And you've got to be on call really any time during that 10 months. Yeah. And now my wife's retired, we've said, come on, a bit of time for ourselves. So that's what we're planning to do, have a bit more time for ourselves. Yeah, I
don't think anyone would argue with that. And how important is it, you think, the relationship you've had with the players over the years? Because they know you inside out, you've been at the club for so long. Do you think that's an important thing? And how do you think that'll work with the new man?
Whoever comes in has got to work with the players. They've got to know and understand the players. They've got to know when to open your mouth and when not to. Yeah. And what to say and what not to say. Yeah. It's no good coming in and sort of berating them when you've lost. You've got to come in and sort of put an arm around them, really, and say, well, come on, we'll go again, and don't dwell on it. Yeah. So
there's some good characters in this current bunch, isn't there?
There are some good characters, yeah. Some of them won't be with us if you read into what's been said. Yeah. But some will. Russ Penn's a good character. Stevie Elliott, got a lot of time for Stevie. Yeah. He's always been a nice chap, Steve, but when I lost my father 2 years ago, he was the first one to come up to me and say sorry about that. And he passed away on the Thursday, and we had a game on the Saturday. And we won the game, and Steve came up to me straight after the game, put his arms around me, said, "We did that for your old man, John."
That's
So
nice,
that was something really nice, and that's Steve all over.
Yeah. I remember a time Michael Townsend scored. I think it was against Port Vale, and he
It
came
was.
over to you, didn't he, on the
Yeah.
bench?
Yeah.
Dedicated the goal.
That's it. Dedicated the goal to me. He'd said for ages and ages in his brummy, "If I score, I'm going to come over and celebrate it with you." And he didn't forget, and he did.
Yeah.
And everybody said, "What's that all about?" I said, "Well, that's just between me and Mike."
Yeah. Did you take him under your wing? You know, something. What was that? Why did he dedicate it to you?
He used to get very down, Mike, and he would argue with everybody and anybody. But you just had to say, "No, come on, Mike, don't be so daft." And I think he said at the time, John was more than just a kit man. He used to put an arm around me if I was down and sort of say, "Come on." So that's what that was all about, I think.
Yeah. Have you felt like a father figure
To
some of the players?
them, yeah.
And I can't really let this interview end without mentioning Wembley. And we had the promotion before that, but that was the first major success, wasn't it? And great scenes after the game.
Yeah.
And great scenes on the coach.
Yeah, great scenes on the coach. I think what you're referring to is coming back from Dover after we got through to the final.
Right, I thought it was after Wembley.
No, it wasn't. It was after Dover, and we got through to the final.
Right.
And that day, I can remember Chris Banks walking up the pitch with his arms in the air, saying, "We've done it, we've done it." And then we got a couple of miles out of Dover, and the director said, "Stop the coach," and they brought a case of champagne, and a bottle came down the front, and I wouldn't let it go back. The rest is history.
And I'm sure you enjoyed the Wembley celebrations, promotion to the conference.
The Wembley celebrations, the promotions to the conference, the two playoff finals. Yeah. Like I said earlier, I've been very lucky. I've had five promotions and 4 major finals.
Yeah.
There's not many on the staff that can say that.
Yeah. Is there a moment that stands out for you in terms of all the time you've been at the club? One special moment that would stand out above all the rest?
The Wembley final.
Yeah.
Was a big occasion. Big occasion for the club. It was our first. You could say when we hit the big time, really. And the other one would be the Millennium Final when we beat Grimsby with John. Yeah. But they've all been very special in their way. But those two stick out for special reasons. One was our first big final, and the other was the relationship I had with John. So.
Yeah. Very tightly knit backroom staff, wasn't it, in those days? And you're still in touch with a lot of them now, aren't you?
Yes.
I think you still meet up and...
We meet up. We try to meet up once a year, and we go out for a meal. Reminisce and take the mickey out of poor old Keith, because he was always a sucker for a joke.
And just finally, John, you're still going to be a regular here, but what else do you plan to do, with your spare time with your wife and your retirement?
Well, I know she's got lots of things lined up for me. She's already started. I want you to do this, that and the other. Yeah. But the other thing is, we like to travel, but there are lots of places in this country that we've not seen, so we're going to see a bit of here. We've never been to Scotland, and that's something that we've always wanted to do. Yeah. So now we've got more time, we can just sort of say, right, come on, let's go. Yeah. And I haven't got to worry about getting back for a Saturday at Barnet or wherever.
Right, that's brilliant, John. Congratulations on your time at the club, and all the best for your retirement.
Thanks, John.
Thanks a lot.
Cheers.